Hey, what's up guys? Hardleg Joe here with a deck profile for the Silent Spellbooks deck. It's brought to you by Patreon sponsor Robert Roosingh. I'm just going to go over everything in here and then explain how it works. So for monsters, we're playing 1 World of Prophecy, 1 Silent Magician level 8, 1 High Priestess of Prophecy, 3 Perform Mage Hat Tricker, 3 Silent Magician, 3 Temperance of Prophecy, and 3 Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. For spells, we're playing all spellbooks. We've got 3 Rudra, 3 Power, 2 Masters, 1 Eternity, 3 Secrets, 2 Wisdom, 2 Fate, 3 Star Hall, 1 Life, and 2 the Grand Spellbook Tower. Our only trap, 3 copies of Solemn Strike. The extra deck I could go over, but it's not really important in the grand scheme of things. This deck doesn't really focus on the extra deck, and I think in the entire week I've been testing this, I've only gone into it 2 or 3 times, so it's not important. You don't even have to play an extra deck in this deck. If you do, just fill it up with whatever rank 2s, 3s, and 4s that you want to fill out a toolbox. As for the side deck, I'll go over that in a little bit. So this deck's win condition is a combination of stun and beatdown. You're using cards to negate your opponent's spells and banish their cards off the field, while summoning huge attack point monsters to beat over them. And no card represents this better than Silent Magician, which is the silent part of the title. This card can't be normal summoned or set except by tributing a spellcaster-type monster you control. It gains 500 attack for every card in your hand. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can negate a spell, and if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can summon out this guy from your deck or hand, which is a 3500 beat stick. So this is a beat stick on its own. This can be a beat stick if you've got like 4 cards in your hand, it's going to be 3000, and of course it stuns your opponent by negating their spell cards. Our other main stun card is Spellbook of Fate. This is if you control a spellcaster-type monster, you can banish up to 3 spellbook cards from the graveyard and apply this effect depending on the number of spell cards you banished. If you banished 1, you can return a set spell trap on the field to the hand. 2, you can change 1 monster on the field to face down defense position or face up attack position. And 3, which is the one we use most often, banish 1 card your opponent controls. And none of those target, which is pretty nice. So in addition to getting Silent Magician out, your deck is often about putting a bunch of spell cards in the graveyard and then searching out this and recycling it so that every turn you can banish 1 card your opponent controls, disrupt their plays, and then hopefully attack them for massive damage. Our other big attackers are High Priestess of Prophecy and World of Prophecy. These can both be summoned by Temperance of Prophecy. This is during your main phase. If you've activated a Spellbook spell card this turn, you contribute this card to summon a level 5 or higher light or dark spellcaster type monster from your deck. You can't special summon other level 5 or higher monsters during the turn you do it, but this is level 4, so you're set with that. So if you get this, you can activate any of these spell cards, then immediately tribute this and get either of these. High Priestess of Prophecy has 2500 attack. If it's in your hand, you can reveal 3 spellbooks from your hand to special summon it, so you can special summon it other ways, but most of the time, since we only play 1, we're just going to be getting it out with this. And its effect is you can banish 1 spellbook from your graveyard or your hand to target a card on the field and destroy it. Not as good of removal as Spellbook of Fate, but it can still be pretty good, especially against spell traps and stuff like that. Our other big beat stick is World of Prophecy. When this card is special summoned by a spellcaster or a spellbook, you can target 2 spellbook cards in your graveyard, add those cards to your hand. When you add cards from your hand with this effect, you can reveal 4 spellbooks with different names in your hand to destroy all other cards on the field. Unfortunately, you can't special summon other monsters the turn you activate that effect, so no combining this with Silent Magician. This is a pretty good second turn play. If you can normal summon this, get 2 spellbooks in the graveyard, and then summon this while you have 2 other spellbooks in your hand, then you can just clear the field, and you've got a 2900 attack point beater, plus a whole bunch of cards in your hand. Even if you can't get the reveal 4 spellbooks and destroy, it's pretty good just to be able to recursion some of your resources and do things again. Plus the 2900 attack doesn't hurt in general. The only problem with this card is if you happen to draw it, if it gets into your hand, we have no way to summon it really, so it's just kind of stuck there. I only play it mostly because I like the field wiping effect. If you wanted to play a more competitive version of this, you could swap it out with another copy of High Priestess of Prophecy, or even one of these other high spellcasters. Dark Magician of Chaos works decently. He'll let you recycle things, and he banishes cards when he fights them. Or Chaos Command Magician that can negate the effect of a monster that targets that. Because monster effects are actually one of the weaknesses of this deck. We don't really have a lot to stop monster effects. We can banish them, hopefully, before they get summoned, or before they can activate their effects, but nothing really to stop them or negate their effects. So this can actually be pretty decent, surprisingly. Anyway, back to the main deck. Probably the only other really important card in here is Spellbook Star Hall. This is each time a Spellbook card is activated, place 1 spell counter on this card. All spellcaster monsters you control gain 100 attack for each spell counter on this card. If this is sent to the graveyard while it has spell counters, you can add a spellcaster from your deck to your hand whose level is less than or equal to the number of spell counters on this card. The important part of this is just the attack gain. 100 attack for each counter may not seem like much, but on a decent turn, you're going to be activating at least 3 spellbooks. And if you can keep this around for 3 or 4 turns, then most of your monsters are going to have a solid 1,000 to 1,500 extra attack, which boosted onto these already pretty high totals that you get with Silent Magician and these other high-level monsters. You can actually get up to like 4,000, even 5,000 attack and just beat down your opponent mercilessly. Everything else in here is just sort of like a search or a tech card. As far as monsters, we're playing Hat Tricker. It's if you control 2 or more monsters on the field, you could special summon it from your hand. It also has this effect where if you would take burn damage, you can place a counter on it, which is not all that important unless you're going up against Trick Stars. More importantly, I play this because spellbooks have a problem with normal summoning. Everything else in here is just normal summonable. This lets you get an extra monster on the field, which can be important for something like Spellbook of Rudra. This is the newer spellbook card. You can send to the graveyard either one spellcaster type monster you control or one spellbook card in your hand to draw 2 cards. This is a really good draw card, but unfortunately sometimes you run into this situation where you either have spellbooks you don't want to get rid of in your hand, or you'll only be able to normal summon 1 monster, and you'll have to choose between drawing those cards or getting out like a Silent Magician or summoning out something with Temperance of Prophecy. This is a really good thing of like normal summon a monster, special summon this if your opponent has a monster on the field or at least 2 monsters, and then you can tribute it for the Spellbook of Rudra to draw 2 cards and not have to worry about not having any field presence. Hat Tricker's also good just because it's level 4, so in a pinch you could special summon both of these out and then make a rank 4 if need be. And of course it just has 1100 attack, which is actually pretty decent compared to some of the lower stat lines we have in here. Probably the lowest stat line is the Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. Very important though, when it's normal summoned or flip face up, add 1 spellbook card from your deck to your hand. So this will search any of the spell cards in the deck, of which there are a lot of them, and a lot of the cards really get your combos going once you have this. As for the spellbooks themselves, I already explained Rudra. This is just a draw card, plus it lets you get cards in the graveyard. Again, talking about that combo with Prophecy, if you normal summon this and then use Rudra to ditch one of your other spellbooks into the graveyard, not only will you be able to activate this effect, but when you summon out World of Prophecy, you can add both of those cards back to your hand. Of course, you can only activate 1 of these per turn, but you'll have it for next turn. Spellbook of Power is target a spellcaster type monster you control. Till the end phase, it gains 1,000 attack, and each time it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can add 1 spellbook card from your deck to your hand, but you can only activate 1 per turn. So this is not only some extra beatdown, but it's some extra search power. In addition, we've also got Spellbook of Secrets, which is just pure search power. Add a spellbook card from your deck to your hand. You can only add 1 per turn. And then Spellbook of Masters, which is pretty interesting. If you control a spellcaster type monster, you can reveal 1 other spellbook card in your hand, then target a spellbook normal spell card in your graveyard, except a copy of itself. The effect of this card becomes the same effect as that card. So what that means is as long as you have another spellbook in your hand, you can normal summon this, add Spellbook of Secrets, activate Secrets to grab Masters, and then you'll activate Masters, reveal the other spellbook in your hand, and target Secrets in your graveyard, so you'll get another search. So it's just adding more spellbooks to your graveyard so that you can use them as fodder for Spellbook of Fate. In addition, you can use this to target another copy of Spellbook of Power, and then you can give that monster an extra 1,000 attack, or give an additional monster the same effect, and then when you destroy something by battle, you'll get 2 searches, 1 for Power and 1 for Masters. Spellbook of Eternity, we only play 1 of. It's just target one of your banished spellbooks and add it for your hand. Really good if you have to banish something that you only have 1 of. Finally, we've just got Spellbook of Wisdom, pretty simple, target a spellcaster type monster. It's either unaffected by spells or unaffected by traps this turn. Just some good protection. We play 2 of because it's not essential and you can search it if you need it. And then same with Spellbook of Life. This is only 1 just because of how many resources it requires. You have to have a lot set up. You have to banish a spellcaster type monster from your graveyard and reveal another spellbook in your hand to target a spellcaster in your graveyard, special summon it in attack position, and equip it with this card. And it changes its level, but that's not really important for anything we do. For us, it's just a monster reborn, essentially, for our spellcasters. Since we're playing these one-ofs, being able to revive them out of the grave in like longer games is actually pretty nice. Especially because Spellbook of Prophecy will get its effect if it's summoned by a spellbook card, so you can add those 2 cards back to your hand. And finally, we just got the Grand Spellbook Tower. This once per turn during your standby phase if you have a spellcaster type monster on your side of the field or in the graveyard. You can place 1 spellbook card from your graveyard to the bottom of your deck, except another copy of itself, and then draw 1 card. And when this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a spellcaster from your hand or deck whose level is less than or equal to the number of spellbooks in your graveyard. This is actually surprisingly great. Not only is it letting you get an additional draw each turn, but it's going to let you recycle your Spellbook of Fate. That's why we can get away with just playing 2 of them. Normally on a turn, you can activate 3 spell cards, use Spellbook of Fate, activate this, and then during your next standby phase, you'll shuffle this back into your deck to draw another card, and hopefully you'll get one of the many things that let you search out Spellbook of Secrets, and then you can just do the same thing again. And of course, if this is destroyed, if you have a whole bunch of these in your graveyard, you can always get one of your bigger cards out. Again, World of Prophecy can be summoned by a Spellbook card, so it all works out. The only other thing in the deck, like I said, is just the Solemn Strike, because this is weak against monster effects, and this really helps out in that regard. You can really play whatever you want. This is kind of like the tech slot. I went with Royal Decree originally because I already had Spell Negation, so having Trap Negation works really well, especially because this doesn't run any other traps. I also experimented with Balance of Judgment because this deck can often go through its entire hand really quickly, and being able to draw a whole bunch of cards can actually let you restart everything. Same thing with Card of Demise, although this can be really tricky, especially with some of these higher level monsters. If you wanted to get rid of the things that special summoned and worked more on just boosting things up with Star Hall, then Card of Demise would be really good, especially in combination with Jaugen the Spiritualist. There's actually a lockdown variant of this deck that runs off this. I didn't find it all that interesting. It was kind of a glass cannon, but if you can get Jaugen on the field, your opponent, neither player can special summon, and then you just build it up with Star Hall until it has like 2,500 attack, and then you're using things to protect it and boost it and stuff like that. Everything else in here is just sort of like some other options you could consider. Magical Something and Magical Exemplar both gain spell counters when a spell is activated, and we activate 3+ spells a turn. So you could use both of their effects. This can target a quick play in your graveyard and set it, which is really good for recycling your Spellbook of Fate. And Magical Exemplar, you can remove spell counters to special summon a spellcaster from your hand or graveyard, which can help get your Spellbook of Prophecy out of your hand or get some of your other monsters out of the graveyard if need be. And then also just Justice of Prophecy, I should mention this. During your end phase, if you activate a spellbook, you can banish this card to add a level 5 or higher light or dark spellcaster and another spellbook card from your deck to your hand. So this is a pretty decent first play if you're not worried about being OTK'd. It can let you add a Spellbook as well as your High Priestess, which if you have 3 Spellbooks you can summon. If you're getting rid of World of Prophecy and adding in more copies of this, or if you're not playing the Silent Magician, this can actually be a really good card to sort of round out the monster lineup. It just didn't work particularly with the version I was going for. So there you go, there's your deck for this week. Next week I have no idea what I'm doing. Until then, good luck and have fun.